All rise. The Honorable Judge Brad Bowles presiding.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Let's all have a seat, please. Pastor Jeffers, could I have a pen, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Okay, we resume the matter of the State of Indiana versus Betty Sanford. When we last recessed, I understand that the prosecution had rest. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is the defense ready to present their case?
We were,
You may call your first witness.
the defense calls Alonzo to the stand.
Alonzo, if you could please step forward. Is this our witness stand over here?
Yes.
Alonzo, if you can stand and raise your right hand, please.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this case under the penalty of perjury.
Yes.
Please be seated, state your name to the court.
My name is Jose Alonso Huerta.
All right. Mr. Alonzo, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a sergeant in the USFPD. I've been there for about 7 years.
Okay. And during your time at the USFPD, did you ever know Mr. Johnny Sanford?
Yes, I was a partner.
And how long were you guys as partners?
About 1 year after my probationary period.
Okay. And tell me more about your time as partners together.
At first, it was an all right partnership, but then things got bumpy.
Can you elaborate?
He started to do some things that were not on policy with the PD.
Okay. So these things that are not on policy with the PD, could you maybe explain these incidents a little bit?
He started to put some alcohol in his drinks whenever he do a ride on. Whenever he'd do it whenever he was a passenger.
He would pour alcohol in his drink while he was on duty as a passenger?
Yes.
Okay. And was this behavior normal for other officers on the department?
No, it was not.
Was there any specific incident that caused you guys to quit being partners?
Yes, there was an incident in which we pulled over a vehicle and he wanted to be the one to go up first to the vehicle.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Why would he want to go to the vehicle first?
The driver was a female and he started to flirt with her after he saw her there.
Was it common for him to flirt with females while on duty?
Yes, it was.
Were there any other officers on the department that you knew of that acted like this?
Not that I know of.
Okay, could you describe the incident with the female where he was adamant to get out first?
He went up to the vehicle, standard procedure, asked for her ID and the passengers and if anything was in there, anyone else, and standard procedure. But then he started to flirt with her. And things got off of hand. Like, he liked to flirt with females a lot, so I would see that every once in a while. But this was more like he wanted to date her and take her out some more.
Okay, and was she not upset by this?
She was kind of, I guess, not confused, but kind of happy that she might get off a speeding ticket.
Okay, and were there any other passengers in the vehicle?
Yes, I believe there was a male passenger that, out of his expressions, could have been her boyfriend.
Okay, and could you describe any interaction between Johnny and the boyfriend?
Well, the boyfriend hit Johnny at first after he began to flirt with her a lot.
He hit him?
Yes.
So the boyfriend got out of the car and assaulted Johnny?
Yes, because Johnny sent me back to get the plaque ID, stuff after them, and their history, if they had any criminal history or warrants out for them.
Okay, and could you describe what happened following the assault?
I believe Johnny, after the assault, broke a tail light to show, I don't know, that he was one in control of the situation, which just escalated it to more violent.
Okay, so Johnny, who had been flirting with this man's girlfriend, was assaulted by the man, and then busted out his taillight. Am I correct?
Yes.
And what happened after that?
Well, the guy got out. I got out after that as well, but I was a bit too slow on that, and they got into a little brawl, I would say. And the female passenger also got out to try to get them separated. I also tried separating them, but during that, Johnny pushed her down to the ground because he was in the way. She was in the way of him and the man.
Okay, and how was the conflict resolved?
It resolved after I separated Johnny from the man, and I told him to just get back in the vehicle and stay there until I had Johnny cool down.
All right. So why did you not report this event?
I didn't report it because Johnny told me not to because he didn't want to deal with all that, and I
Respected Johnny as a partner?
yeah, I did.
Okay.
Objection.
What's your objection?
Leading the witness.
Sustained. Would you like to strike that last question and answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion to strike is granted, and jurors shall disregard the last question and answer. Thank you. You may go on.
After switching partners, did you have any more important interactions with Mr. Sanford?
This occasional calls where they request backup. That's pretty much it.
Okay, and did you ever have any other incidents where you noticed Mr. Sanford behaving out of control?
No, not really.
All right, thank you. That's all.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Why did you never report any of the incidents that happened?
Because I was told by Johnny not to. At that time, he was higher ranked than I was.
High rank?
Yeah.
Okay, but you are an officer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And your job is to serve and protect this community, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So with knowing the type of officer Johnny was, you did nothing to help the situation, yes or no? Yes or no?
I'd say no.
Hey.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You redirect.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're excused. Next witness.
The defense calls Serena Salazar to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this case under the penalty of perjury.
I do.
Please be seated. State your name to the court.
Serena Salazar.
Can you please, for the court, can you please state your name and occupation, please?
My name is Serena Salazar. I work for the USF Police Department in ballistics.
And then can you tell us where you received your education?
I received my bachelor's degree at University of St. Francis in forensic science and biology.
And then can you tell us how long you've been working in this particular field?
8 years.
So based on your qualifications, are you considered an expert in your field by other colleagues and professionals?
Yeah, my expertise is working on cases that involve ammunition. I also examine explosive, bullet fragments, gunshot wounds, and bullet holes. And then during any investigation, I can determine when the weapon was used and how it was fired.
Your Honor, does the court recognize Ms. Salazar as an expert in her field?
Yes.
Did the bullets that were found in Johnny's body match that of Betty Sanford's service weapon?
Yes.
And then can you please tell us what type of test that you conducted during your investigation?
Yeah, it's something like as big as this table. It's a water tank. I continue to fire the same weapon multiple times just to make sure that the bullet fragments do match the weapon. And then I also use like a magnifier, anywhere from like 10 times to 100 times to match the fragments.
And then do you perform these tests often?
Yes, I do, especially if there's more than one gun involved.
And then from your test, were you able to determine where the gun was fired?
Yes, I was. I used like some type of laser, and I used multiple angles, and the only one that matched was if she was laying on the bed.
Okay. And then how reliable or accurate are these tests that you conduct?
They're very accurate, as I say. I do it multiple times to make sure that my measurements are correct.
So based on your test, can you say with a certain degree of certainty that Betty shot her service weapon while lying on her bed?
Yes, you did.
And then, meaning based on the test conducted, the shooting of Betty Sanford's gun was reactionary compared to being premeditated or planned.
Well, I can't say
Objection.
that. Yeah.
All right, take a minute and think about it. It's the right objection, now you have to know why. You're not gonna find it in the list.
Oh.
Yeah, you're gonna have to think for a second. What is she's asked to be qualified as an expert, she's testifying as an expert. She's telling us things about what?
The murder case.
What?
Well,
Specifically,
The
she's qualified to tell us about what?
Ballistics.
gun
The gun.
and the bullets.
Right, and what was that last question, and what was she asked to answer?
It was in reference to Betty Sanford's
Betty Sanford's positioning.
Demeanor.
positioning, correct?
Well, it's your state of mind, whether it was
Yeah.
premeditated
Yeah.
or, all right, so
Okay.
your objection is that she
She's
does
not
not.
qualified.
Yeah, she's not qualified. She doesn't have, technically, under the rules of evidence, personal knowledge. She does not have personal knowledge of that question, so make your objection. Lack of
Like a.
personal.
knowledge, Personal knowledge.
Lack of personal knowledge, and that's right. You could answer, you can
I can
counter
fight
that.
that?
Yeah, you can fight that. Tell me how it's relevant. Tell me
Um,
how she might have personal knowledge, or how her expertise could,
Are you that?
her measurements and her expertise could give the answer to that question. It's possible.
Can I talk about something we haven't presented yet? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, so what we're trying to argue is that Betty's reaction to shooting was reactionary and
Right.
that's justified in self-defense and stuff like that.
Yep.
And we're asking her to prove that she was lying on the bed.
Right, got
meaning
that.
That she was asleep and everything.
Right, you got that in?
Right. And
All right.
then
Ask about the door.
How can what her measurements, her lasers tell us
Right.
whether or not it was premeditated or?
I'm assuming because if it was premeditated, I'd assume somebody would be standing up or something like that compared to.
I mean, you could be laying down ready to shoot. You talking about?
Maybe you could prove that she would know the different, like the accuracy of.
Oh, by the way, we're in timeout again. We'll go back into the trial in just a second.
Maybe she would know that like someone, when they're awake and everything, their accuracy versus the accuracy of someone who's maybe just woke up. You know what I mean?
She can't do
Is that a
that.
She
thing?
can't do that.
Well, she's
That's-
a police
that's-
officer.
She would know the training standards.
There's no
And would
proof to
also know-
prove if it was premeditated or not.
All right, end of the timeout. End of the timeout. Tell me why you think it's relevant, and why she can testify to it. Your answer just came.
Oh, because they're trying to prove it's premeditated.
How can she tell us it's not? I think you already said it.
Based on her tests and measurements and based on the accuracy she said it was based upon.
Right. So maybe the question is, we'll go back to timeout. So maybe the question is something like, do you have an opinion as to whether someone who had planned a murder would be laying down in the bed?
Yes.
Something like that, right?
Yes.
So make that argument to me real quick, and then I'm going to overrule the objection and tell you why.
Say it one more time.
All right. You're going to say that the timing and the angle of the shot and her position of the body.
Does not like meet the standards of being premeditated.
There you go,
Okay.
something like that. All right, you just want to go with that?
Yes.
All right, we'll go with that. End of timeout. Your objection is overruled. I'm going to allow the witness to answer the question as it relates to her field of expertise. I'm going to allow you a lot of room to cross-examine on this issue, and I'm not going to invade the province of the jury in making the decision on this issue. Please go ahead. You can ask your question.
Okay. So based on your experience in the test that you conducted, can you assume that the shooting of Betty Sanford's weapon was not premeditated or anything, instead reactionary?
Well, yeah, because as I angled it, she wasn't standing up on the bed. She was like, just came awoke, and then her, she's laying down, so her body's like upward. So it'll be someone who's waking up out of their sleep.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
You stated that that Betty had been laying down when she premeditated the killing, correct?
Well, I don't know what was going in her head at the time, but I know that she was awoken from her sleep, and when she had fired the weapon.
She wasn't.
I wasn't done.
Okay. go ahead.
So when she had fired the weapon, she was upright. She wasn't standing up. She was still laying down on the bed.
Okay. So to my understanding, Betty could have been sitting up in her bed, ready to shoot Johnny, correct?
Based on other people that were testifying the other day, they said that she was laying down still.
She wasn't what?
That she was laying down still, based on the other police that had reported that she was still in her room.
So with my understanding, Betty, she could have been awoke, laying on the bed, ready to shoot Johnny, correct?
I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know. But from my measurements, I can determine that she was laying upright when she had shot her weapon.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect? Okay, this witness is excused. All right, next witness for the defense.
The defense calls Junior to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this case under the penalty of perjury? Yes. Please be seated. State your name to the court.
Say your name.
No, Dr. Junior Angeles.
Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Angeles?
Like my work.
Huh?
Like my work experience.
Yeah, like your experience and.
Well, I got my doctorate and my master's at Harvard. My doctorate in trauma, my master's in psychology. And after that, I went to various conferences on how to diagnose Bader-Gluman syndrome and how to properly treat it. And I wrote 2 books on how to diagnose it and how to properly treat it.
Okay, and do you have any experience working in cases of this matter?
Yes.
And have you ever testified as an expert witness before?
Yes.
Do you and your peers consider you an expert witness?
Yes.
Does the court recognize Dr. Junior Angeles as an expert?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Mrs. Sanford.
I was hired by the defense to diagnose her with Bader-Gluman syndrome, and that's basically it.
Describe your interviews and evaluations of Miss Sanford.
During my interview with her, she was very jittery and anxious when I was talking to her, and while she was telling her stories, and she was just kept talking to me about how she was really uncomfortable around her husband, and how she didn't feel safe when he was near her, especially when he's been drinking, because he said he had a really bad drinking problem.
Okay, and you said, why would she be scared of her husband? Did she say?
She said that he got very physical when he was drinking.
Okay, and did you ever find any evidence of this being physical?
Yes. She personally didn't say anything, but while she was talking to me, I noticed the various bruises on her neck, arms, and
Objection.
wrists.
All right,
Hearsay.
sustained.
Hold on, say that one more time. How's it hearsay?
Because it's something that she said outside of the court.
But he's describing their interaction together. Does that make sense?
I know. It's important to your case, and it's hearsay. So now what are you gonna do? You have to tell me. You gotta tell me why.
Can you please describe
Hold on. There are exceptions to hearsay, and so. Maybe.
He's not using it until.
It's okay. So hearsay, in general, hearsay is something that someone has said outside of court, that someone else is saying. So if you start your testimony with words, he said or she said, that immediately perks up to hearsay. But there is an exception to hearsay, and then you can, sometimes hearsay comes in when it's the words that are said are under conditions that we can assume are mostly reliable, okay? And in this situation, this is an exception called a statement in furtherance of medical diagnosis. You figure that people don't lie to their doctors.
Okay.
That's wrong, by the way. We all lie to our doctors. This is an exception to hearsay. So I'm sorry. That's a little a bit of a deeper dive into the rules of evidence that I understand now that you've gone into, but your objection was right, that was hearsay. Your response was right, it's a statement in furtherance of medical diagnosis. I'm going to allow the testimony, so you can go on. All right.
All right, so can you please describe what she told you, how she got the bruises?
She said one night she was at home and that Johnny came home drunk and got very physical with her.
And what was the extent, or what did she say was the extent of this physicality?
Just him being intoxicated.
And beating her, I assume. Okay.
Objection.
What's your objection?
Leading the witness.
Yes, and testifying. So that's sustained.
Can you please describe the bruises that you observed to us?
They were like hand bruises, like use of force.
Your
Like,
Honor.
he was grabbing her.
I'd like to introduce exhibits A through E.
All right.
And publish to the jury.
You have copies of
No, they,
Plans A through E?
they'll need to see.
Pardon?
They'll need to see.
They will? Okay.
Can I publish to the jury?
Yeah, any objection to the admission of defense A through D, did you say?
No.
A through E?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so A through E admitted, then can publish them to the jury?
Can you please describe what we're seeing in the pictures here?
These are the various bruises. This is a bruise on her neck, showing like she was like choked,
Mm-hmm.
like just handprints. These are just more shots at the neck.
Okay. Ms. Jeffrey. Ms. Jeffrey. Huh?
All right.
Go to the next.
Okay.
Can you describe this one?
This is one of the bruises that I saw on her arm, and as you can see, it's like you can see the fingers and the use of force that was used. Another one on her arm.
All right, and how do you know that, based on your expertise, how do you know these aren't she was a police officer, so how do you know these aren't work-related injuries?
Well, like in my expertise, I work with domestic violence, and in most of my cases, these are what the bruises look like when someone's been abused.
So you would say that these bruises are consistent with domestic violence victims that you've
Yes.
had previously?
Yes.
Okay, and based on your expertise, interviews, and diagnosis and experience with this case, how would you how would you diagnose Ms. Sanford?
I would diagnose Miss Stanford with battered woman syndrome.
And did you?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, nice job. Okay, cross-examination. Got to go quickly. Professor Jeffries tells me we need to get all the witnesses done and closing arguments and deliberations in before 10:45. So.
Based on your training, what are some of the symptoms that battered woman syndrome display?
Very bad anxiety and like fear of someone.
Okay. Would battered woman syndrome make Betty scared of anyone or just her abuser?
It could be anyone, but mostly just the abuser.
Okay. Would it lead a woman so fearful to the point that she would shoot through a door?
Can you reword that, or can you ask it again, please?
Would it lead a woman so fearful to the point that she would shoot through a door?
Well, in my expertise, if someone was that scared, I mean, yes.
How many women have you dealt with that had this syndrome?
It's about like 5% of all my cases that
Okay.
I've done.
Has any one of them ever shot through a door, killing someone?
No.
No. Okay. So you would consider this case uncommon, knowing that Betty killed Johnny because she was scared of him. And you stated before that that with this syndrome, that Betty would only be scared of her abuser normally, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So you would consider this case uncommon?
I guess so, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And next witness, please.
Can I not rewrite?
Nope. Go move.
The defense calls Ian Johnson to stand.
And by the way, that's fair too, that happens. Judges are allowed to control the
Because
method of witnesses. And,
That should have been an objection, because he's over here talking about.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this case under penalty of perjury? Yes. Please be seated, state your name to the court.
My name is Ian Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, can you please state your occupation for the court?
I'm the bartender and owner of Fat Cat Bar.
And then can you please describe to us your relationship with Johnny Sanford?
He was a regular. I saw him almost every day.
So Johnny Sanford attended your bar frequently, just about every day?
Yes.
And then during what type of day did he usually attend your bar? Was it at night or during the day, or?
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both?
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson, were you aware that Johnny Sanford was a police officer?
Yes.
And then, to your knowledge, were you aware that, or to your knowledge, did Johnny ever drink while on duty?
Not to my knowledge.
There are also instances in which Johnny Sanford got, a couple occasions in which Johnny Sanford got so intoxicated he had to be removed from your bar?
Yes.
And then during these occasions, he tried to get physical with you when you were forced to remove him?
He tried to hit me one time when I tried to kick him out.
And then, why did you allow him to return back to your bar and drink?
He was a cop, and he would use his power against me as a cop.
Could you please elaborate on what
He
you mean by
would
that?
threaten me and say, if you don't let me come back, your life's gonna get worse.
And you took this as threats, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you never reported any of these altercations that you had with Johnny?
No.
Okay. Did you ever notice that when Johnny attended your bar, did he ever come alone, or was he in company of other people?
He was in company of other people a few
And
times.
do you know who these people were, or
No.
what kind of people were they? Were they like coworkers, I'm guessing, or were you not aware?
I wasn't aware.
Okay. Were you aware that Johnny was married?
No.
On the night of the incident, in February 15th, Johnny entered your bar with the woman, correct?
Yes.
And then the woman who's later be revealed as Judy Henderson. Have you ever seen the two of them together at your bar before?
No.
So it was your first time ever seeing Judy?
Yes.
Were you aware that Judy was underage at the time that she entered your bar?
Not at the time.
You didn't. Did you not check her ID?
No, because she was with Johnny.
Okay. How did Judy look while at the bar? Did she?
She looked uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like she didn't want to be there.
Were you aware of the fact that Johnny was coercing Judy to be at the bar with him that night?
No, I did not.
And then can you describe to me the events that you saw that happened at the bar?
It was pretty busy. It was a pretty busy night for us. But as the night went on, he got drunk and one thing led to another.
Johnny Sanford did?
Yeah.
At what time did Johnny and Judy arrive at your bar?
It was between 9:45 and 10:15.
And then you're saying as the night progressed, Johnny grew more aggressive towards Judy?
Yes.
What happened next?
He walked up to her, and she was ready to leave, and he grabbed her by her arm and dragged her across the bar.
And then did any other events happen after Johnny started to drag Ms. Henderson around?
She yanked her arm away, and he smacked her.
Johnny physically struck
Yes.
Ms. Henderson. Your Honor, the defense would like to input Exhibit F. And that's a picture, but then we have a video of the surveillance from the Fat Cat Bar,
All right.
which is
How long is the video? Is it okay here?
Yes.
All right.
It's like a minute and a half, if that.
15 seconds.
15
Okay.
seconds.
Pretty quick.
I'm going to assume that the prosecutor has seen this and that they don't object, and we're going to Exhibit F.
No objection.
Okay, play it.
Is that, can you confirm that that's surveillance video from your
Yes.
bar?
Yes.
And then, can you attest to the fact that that was Johnny Sanford and Miss Judy Henderson?
Yes.
Was it after after Mr. Sanford struck Judy? Is it at this point that you asked him to leave?
Yes.
And then, what happened when you asked him to leave?
He got really physical. He tried to get physical with me and my security guard.
He tried to attack you?
Yes.
In which he had to be forcibly removed by your security?
Yes.
And then, what happened when Johnny was exited from your establishment?
He went out to his car. Judy followed him.
Did you hear any conversation between the two of them while you were outside?
He was just yelling. I really couldn't understand what he was saying.
So Johnny Sanford and Miss Judy Henderson left together?
Yes.
You didn't try to stop Judy from going with Johnny?
No, because I had to make sure he got home safe without killing himself or somebody else. He was drunk.
Okay. And then, why did you ever report this incident to the police or the authorities?
No, because he was a cop and he would have used his power against me.
No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
You are the owner of Fat Cat Bar, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you check IDs at this bar?
Always.
Always. Okay. In the report, you stated that that Johnny was with a younger female at the bar.
Yes.
And I just want to ask, why did you not check her ID?
Like I said, he was a cop. He said she was with him. And he said he threatened to ruin my life.
He threatened to ruin your life.
Yep.
Inside the bar, he threatened you.
Yes.
Okay. The night at the bar, Johnny had drugged, smacked, and abused Judy, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do about this situation?
I kicked him out.
Okay. At this point of the night, did you check on Miss Judy Henderson? Did you check on Miss Judy Henderson after she had been struck, smacked, and drugged across the bar?
No, because she had followed him out right away after he had been kicked out.
Okay.
I never had a chance to talk to her.
You never had a chance to talk to her. Okay. You stated that you kicked Judy out of the bar. Why did you kick Judy out the bar?
Objection. When he said that.
Well, hold on. Your objection is to me. All right.
Right. Assuming facts. Not
Okay.
negatives.
I don't exactly remember, but we're going to sustain it.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Right. Assuming facts not in evidence, it means that he's presented him with a scenario that was never proved in the first place. And so he can't answer the question, so.
No further regret.
All right. Thank you very much. Next witness.
The defense calls Judy Henderson to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this case under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. State your name to the court.
Please state your name for the record.
Judy Henderson.
Hi, Miss Henderson. How are you?
I'm okay.
Did you know Johnny Sanford?
A little bit, yeah.
And can you describe the first time you ever met Mr. Sanford?
Well, he was one of the officers that patrolled the campus that I go to school at, and first time I met him, he had pulled me over for not using a turn signal.
Okay, and during your first meeting, did anything seem out of the ordinary?
No, he seemed pretty nice, and he let me off with a warning.
Okay. When was the next time, if any, that you met with Mr. Sanford?
It was later on that week.
The same week?
Yes.
Okay, and could you describe your second meeting for us, please?
I was going a little bit over the speed limit, so he pulled me over, and he, when he came up to my window, though, he seemed a little off, and his breath smelled funny, like alcohol, kind of. But he let me off with a warning, again.
Okay, and did he seem, was there anything off besides the alcohol?
Not really, just alcohol.
Okay, so it could have been a mistake or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Describe your third meeting, if you had any, with Mr. Sanford.
I was driving home from one of my classes at night. It was around 7:45.
Okay.
And Johnny pulled me over. And when he came up to the window, he kind of staggered up to the window a little bit. And
Okay. You could see him in the mirror?
yes.
Okay.
And when he came up to the window, he leaned down in, and he said that I didn't do anything wrong, but that he pulled me over to ask me to go to a bar with him later on that week.
Okay, and would you assume at this point that Mr. Sanford knew what your car looked like specifically?
Yes.
And knew who the driver of that car would have been?
Yeah.
Okay, and so just to clarify, Mr. Sanford, who was obviously intoxicated, pulled you over to ask you to go out with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Objection. Leading the witness.
Sustained. Isn't it funny about objections? Sometimes your gut just says there's something wrong with this, and then you say objection, now you gotta figure out later why. All right, that was sustained.
Okay. Initially, when Mr. Sanford asked you, did you agree to go on a date with him?
No.
And did he seem upset when you refused?
Yeah, he seemed very upset. He got very aggressive.
Can you please describe this?
When I refused to go because I was 17 at the time, and I told him that, and he said, you know, age is just a number, and I said, you know, like, I can't be in the bar anyway. And when I kept refusing, he got mad and said that if I didn't go out on a date with him, he would give me a ticket for my busted taillight. But I did not have a busted taillight at the time. And when I said, what busted taillight, he went to the back of my car and beat it out my left taillight.
Okay. And did you then proceed to accept Mr. Sanford's demand?
Yes.
And what was your motive for doing so?
I was afraid of him. I was afraid he would abuse his power to get me in trouble. And also, he said he'd fix my taillight if I went with him.
Okay. And did you have any motive for accepting besides fear?
No, besides fear in the taillight, no.
Okay. Describe the night of the incident, the night you went out with Mr. Sanford.
He picked me up from campus around 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And we went to the bar. I just ordered a water, and he ordered multiple drinks, and he got very drunk.
Okay. That's normal bar behavior. So, did anything out of the ordinary happen at the bar?
Well, after he had had multiple drinks, he tried to touch me inappropriately, and when I shoved his hand away, he smacked me.
Okay. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on this event? Did nobody help or anything?
No. It all happened so fast, I don't think anyone had time to help, but they did kick Johnny out of the bar shortly
Okay.
after.
Okay, and what happened after Johnny was kicked out of the bar? What did you do?
I followed him outside hoping for a ride back to campus. I assumed that after he got yelled at, he wouldn't be aggressive anymore. I just also, I needed a ride back to campus. I didn't want to call my parents to come get me. I didn't want to get in trouble.
Okay, so why were you gonna ride back to campus with Mr. Sanford if you knew he was intoxicated?
I didn't think about it at the time because he had said that, you know, he could handle his alcohol, and at the time I believed him.
Right. So what happened when you got in the car?
I got in the car and he drove me towards campus, but when we got to campus, he turned the other way. And when I asked what he was doing, he said that we were going back to his house instead of back to campus. So I tried to open the door, but he said that there was child locks because I was going to jump out, but he said that there was child locks on the door, so I couldn't get out. I was
So-
in the back seat.
At this point, could you please describe your emotion?
I was scared. I didn't know what was, sorry, I didn't know what was gonna happen to me. I didn't know if he was gonna kill me, rape me, I didn't know. I was terrified.
Okay. And once you arrived at Mr. Sanford's house, what occurred?
He parked the car, got out, and he yanked me out of the car, and when he grabbed my arm, it hurt so bad. I started crying, and he dragged me into the house and threw me on the floor. I tried to crawl away from him to the corner and to get as far away from him as possible. And he stood over me and went to slap me, and we heard a noise come from the bedroom, like a bed creaking or something.
Okay,
And-
so, sorry to interrupt you, but, so throughout the night, Mr. Sanford had put his hands on you multiple times?
Yes.
And you didn't want any part in that, correct?
No.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce exhibits G through J.
All right. Any objection from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Publish G through J, or admit G through J.
Could you please describe these pictures to us?
That is the bruise on my face from Johnny slapping me at the bar.
Okay, and we go to the next
Is that
picture.
really you?
Yeah. And that's bruised from when he grabbed my wrist and yanked me back and yanked me out of the car as well. And those are different angles of the bruises.
Can you please just keep describing?
Yeah, that's where his fingers had grabbed my arm and pressed down.
Thank you, Ms. Sanford. After he threw you on the ground at his house, what happened?
Like I said, we heard a noise from the bedroom, so it was like a bed creaking or something, like someone rolling over in their sleep.
Okay.
And he stopped and said that he was gonna go bring someone in on our fun, I guess. So he went to the bedroom, or the room in the hallway, and tried to open the door, but it appeared to be locked. And so he yelled through the door, and then he started banging on the door, like beating it really hard, kicking it, hitting it, and.
So, sorry to interrupt, but it was at this point when he went down the hall. Obviously, he was very agitated that the door was locked. He was trying to get inside.
Yes.
If his focus was on the door, why didn't you try to leave?
It all happened so fast. I was sitting there and I was looking at the door, looking at him. I was trying to think when would be the best time to run for the door, but I was also afraid he'd see me and hurt me worse than he had already had.
Okay. And once you were on the couch, you could see him down the hallway banging on the door, correct?
Yes.
And could you please describe what happened while he was banging on the door?
He was banging on the door really hard, and then I heard a loud noise. It sounded like a gunshot almost. And then I heard another one, and Johnny dropped to the floor.
Okay. And if he was banging so violently on the door, why didn't he stop when he couldn't get it open?
I think he was just trying to beat it down, maybe.
He just wanted what was on the other side?
Yeah.
And did you know what was on the other side?
No.
Okay. And when he was banging on the door, even kicking it, would I be correct in assuming that this was causing quite a bit of noise?
Yes.
And do you believe this noise would have been sufficient enough to startle someone from their sleep?
Yes.
So you had no interaction with Miss Betty Sanford?
No, not until after the police got there.
Did both shots come from inside the door that Mr. Sanford was attempting to break through?
Yeah.
And did you see anyone else before the police arrived?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. That's all.
Thank you. Brief cross.
The night of the incident, you stated that in the report that you were flattered that Johnny had asked you out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right after this, you told him that you couldn't go on a date with him because he was too old, correct?
Yes.
So if Johnny had been 17, you would have considered the date, correct?
Yeah, if it had been someone my age.
Yes.
Objection. Assuming.
That's an objection?
Assuming fact that.
Or no foundation?
No foundation.
I asked a simple question.
I don't see anything wrong with it. What's the question? If you'd been 17, you would have considered it a date?
Yeah.
Yeah, go. Run with it.
So, okay. So if Johnny had been 17, you would have considered going on a date with him, correct?
Yeah, not if he was aggressive though.
Okay. Johnny told you to meet him at campus at 10 p.m., right?
Yes.
10 p.m.?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, in the report you stated that it's 10 p.m. that he told you to meet him.
Okay.
Okay. And you showed up on campus at 9 p.m., correct?
Yes.
An hour earlier than the original time that Johnny had told you.
Yeah.
Was this because you were flattered that Johnny had asked you out, or was this because you just wanted to be early?
I just wanted to be early, and I was already on campus anyway.
Okay. When Johnny was removed from the bar after the incident, you stated that you followed Johnny out to the car.
Yes.
Okay. And why did you not get any help from the bar owner?
At the time, I didn't think about it, honestly. I just wanted to ride back to campus. I didn't want to be in any trouble with anyone. And I was afraid that Johnny would abuse his power if I didn't go with him as well.
Okay. You stated that you were scared that you were going to be in trouble, but yet you followed the abuser that had just drug you through the bar, smacked you around in the bar, and you still proceeded to follow him outside of the bar. Yes or no? Okay. You also stated that when you got to the house, that you heard a noise when you had came in, correct? Okay, so was this possible that that Betty could have been awoke?
It could be possible, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know.
All right. Is it also possible that Betty could have heard you and Johnny come in the house?
It's possible.
Okay. If he was that intoxicated, you don't think that he could have gotten to the door a little quicker?
What do you mean?
With him being intoxicated, you don't think he could have actually beaten down the door if he wanted to?
I don't know.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next witness.
The defense called Betty Sanford to stand.
Do we get to?
Yeah, if they want to redirect.
All right.
She's the last witness.
Okay. Let's see, Judy. There was some redirect.
Judy.
Okay. What do I say? Like, you can't just break down a door.
They're gonna do a redirect.
Oh,
never
are they?
Okay, never mind.
Sorry, I'm redirected. Sorry. The defense called Betty Sanford to stand.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? In this case, under the penalty of perjury.
You were trying to break down the door.
You read that wrong. I wrote it wrong. You read it wrong.
Okay, order, please.
Can you please state your name and relationship to Johnny?
My name is Betty Sanford, and Johnny is my husband.
How long were you and Johnny married?
14 years.
Can you please describe your marriage to the court?
At the beginning, everything was great. We have 3 beautiful children, but lately things have been getting a little stressful at work, and he's been drinking more. I've heard rumors of him letting college girls off without a warning, but I'm not really sure if that's true. Recently, things have gotten a little worse. One night he came home drunk and stormed into the room. He raped and beat me, but since that night I've been so scared of him, so I've been sleeping in the guest room. He threatened to take the children away if I told anyone, but I was so scared something would happen to the children or that they would see, so I've been sending them to my parents' house lately.
So Johnny began to drink more frequently,
Yes.
and then he grew more aggressive the more he drank.
Yes, he was. He was a completely different person when he would drink.
Did he ever hurt you or your children?
He hurt me, and I had bruises on my face and body, but he never hurt the children.
And then after the incident in which he abused you and then forcibly raped you against your will, is it after this that you began to send your children to your grandparents?
Yes.
To try and avoid conflict that they might have with him?
Yes.
Objection.
Leading objection sustained. You were leading the witness.
Okay.
All right.
So I have to reword it?
Up to you.
After the incident in which he started to abuse you and he raped you, what happened? Or what happened, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was really scared that he would get so angry with me that he would take his anger out on the children, and so I've been sending him to my parents' house so they are away from the situation.
Did you ever report the abuse?
No, I did not.
And then can you describe to me describe to us in more detail the night in which he raped you?
Yeah, he was really angry and aggressive, and I could smell that he was drunk. I could smell it on his breath, and he came into the room when I was asleep and shook me, and he was screaming at me, but he wasn't making any sense. He held me down and hit me in the face, and he laid on top of me, and that's when it happened.
About what time did this incident happen? Or did this happen? I'm sorry. At about what time did this happen? Like, what day? Does that make sense? Like,
It was about 2 weeks prior to this event.
So the events of him raping you were still fresh in your mind.
Yes, I was still so afraid of him.
So it's safe to say that you were terrified of Johnny.
Yes.
And then, what happened after? What happened after he raped you? Were there any precautions that you took to try and protect yourself?
Yeah, I slept with my service weapon next to me each night.
And then you also stated that you started to sleep in different rooms in another attempt to protect yourself from him, right?
Yeah, I slept in the guest bedroom.
And then, so you slept with your service weapon every night? And then can you describe to me the events that happened on February 15th?
Yeah. I went to bed around 11 that night in the guest room where I'd been sleeping. I knew that he would be out on runs, but I didn't know when he would be home. I locked the door and headed to bed, but I was woken up around 1 in the morning to loud bangs on the bedroom door and like a muffled voice. I told the person to stop and that I was an officer who was armed and ready to shoot. The banging continued, and that's when I fired 2 shots. It got really quiet, and that's when I called 911.
And you said that you were in the guest room in which you had been sleeping alone?
Yes.
At the time that you started to hear the banging on the door and the voices, were you asleep?
Yes.
About what time that night did you lay down or fall asleep?
I went to bed around 11 and fell asleep shortly after.
And when you lay down, to your knowledge, were you alone in the house?
Yes, Johnny was at work and the children were at their grandparents' house.
And once again, you said you awoke to the sound of someone banging on your door trying to break it down?
Yes.
Can you please describe to us the thoughts that were going through your mind at this time? What did you think was happening?
I was really scared and I was startled in my sleep. I wasn't sure who was banging on the door, but I knew that someone was out there trying to get to me.
Did the thought of an intruder ever come to your mind? Of like someone breaking into your house?
It crossed my mind, but I wasn't sure who it could have been.
Everything just happened so fast.
Yeah.
And then you said that you gave the person commands to stop what they were doing.
Yeah, I told them I was an officer who was armed and ready to shoot, and that's when they continued to bang on the door.
So the banging did not stop after you gave your commands?
Correct.
And then how many times did you fire your service weapon?
Twice.
And then where were you in the room when you fired your weapon?
I was still in the bed.
You never left your bed?
No.
Mm-hmm. And after you proceeded to fire your weapon, you then called the police immediately?
Yeah, after I shot twice, I grabbed my phone and called 911.
But you never left your room until the police arrived, correct?
Correct.
So you had no idea that at the time Judy Henderson was in your house?
No, I didn't know anyone was in there. That was after the first night I had met Judy.
And then just to clarify, you had never seen Judy before the night of the shooting?
No, I worked on campus, but I've never met her.
No further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
Hi, Betty. You and Johnny were married for 14 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You stated that during these 14 years, Johnny frequently yelled and abused you?
Not at the beginning, it's just been more recently, probably the last month or so.
The last month or so. Okay. So if Johnny had so happened to be on the opposite side of a door yelling at you, would you know it was him? Simple fact that, for a month or so, Johnny had been yelling and abusing you, you wouldn't know it was Johnny on the other side of a door if he was yelling?
Not necessarily. The bangs were so loud I couldn't really make out a voice.
In the report, you stated that you and Johnny sleep in different rooms, correct?
Just recently, yes.
Just recently. Did you sleep with the door locked on most nights?
Not every night, but sometimes, just in case. If I know he'll be out late, you never know what could happen.
Okay. So if he would be out late, you would normally lock the door?
Yeah, just because I know he's been drinking more frequently, and I don't want anything to happen again.
Okay. Was this the first night that Johnny came home yelling and trying to abuse you?
No, he did it 2 weeks prior.
Okay. When you sent your kids to your parents' house, why did you not go with them for safety or to protect yourself with your kids?
I didn't want anyone to know something was wrong. I just wanted them to have a fun weekend with the grandparents.
Okay. You didn't think that you could go and kind of give them an excuse on, you wanted to get away or you wanted to see your parents or anything like that?
I didn't want to do anything to make him angry.
Okay. So on the night, February 15th, 2017, was anything different? Johnny, you stated that Johnny normally comes home drunk or whatever, and gets mad at you. Why on this night did you decide to shoot through a door?
I didn't know who was on the outside, and I told them that I was an officer armed, ready to shoot, and they didn't stop. I didn't know if it was him or if it was somebody else. I had no idea who it was until after.
So why did you not consider to, see what would happen if they would have come through the door, just to see who it was on the other side of the door?
What do you mean?
Why did you not allow that person to come in to see who it was that you were shooting?
Why would I let an intruder or somebody break
But
down the door?
you stated that you didn't know that it was an intruder. It could have been. You said that Johnny would come home drunk normally. So you didn't. Not one time did you think that it was Johnny at the door?
No. When he would come home drunk, I would try to calm him down and just send him to bed. But that night, it was just a loud bang on the door.
So Johnny had never banged on the door before this night or any other night.
No.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No further readers.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. What are we going now? Ready for closing? All right, closing argument. Prosecutor.
There's the defense rest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The defense rests, and does the prosecutor have any rebuttal evidence?
The defense rests.
All right. Defense is rested, prosecution is rested. Time for closings. Prosecutor.
If I could just quickly interject, would everyone be able to stay just a few minutes late since we're kind of running behind? Okay, so then take your time, make your closing argument to the jury. Of course.
Of course. I'm just getting prepared. That's all. Hi, jury. Justice has to be served in society. You can't just kill someone and get away with it. In this case, Betty Sanford is trying to get away with killing Johnny Sanford. The facts that are given today are obviously true. From the bad bar owner that let Judy get beaten, to the bad police officer whose job is to serve and protect this community, to the young, flattered 17-year-old Judy Henderson. Betty and Johnny had been married for 14 years. She figured that on January 15, 2017, would be the perfect night to kill Johnny, knowingly and intentionally. I hope that the court makes the right decision today and that justice is served. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Jalen, and I will be making the closing argument for the defense on behalf of Betty Sanford. The evidence that has been shown to you throughout this trial has proved that Betty Sanford did not commit the crime of murder toward Johnny Sanford, in which she purposely knew and planned to kill him. It also showed that Johnny Sanford was not the good man that the prosecution has tried to portray him as. In fact, it showed quite the opposite. He was a monster who constantly uses authority as a police officer to harass multiple people and coerce them into getting whatever he wanted. He was also very manipulative and not faithful to his wife, Betty Sanford. On top of this, he was a drunk who constantly drunk on the job and then proceeded to beat his wife. But this was not enough. He also threatened Betty that he would take the kids if she ever tried to get help from his abusive ways. The situation, in fact, got so bad that he then proceeded to forcibly rape Betty. And then, in response to this, Betty had to send her children away on the weekends in fear that they might receive some of the anger from Johnny. Yep. Keep in mind, this is a man who took an oath to love and protect Betty, and at the same time, he's doing all these awful things to her in her own house, in which the fear she must have felt must have been unbearable. The prosecution has failed to submit any evidence in which that can show Betty intentionally killed or planned or premeditated to kill her husband, Johnny. They brought up a marriage counselor who used inappropriate methods of treatment in attempts to try and better the situation, but in fact made things worse. They also brought up the mother of Johnny's oldest child, who claimed to have no real interaction with Betty, the woman who was taking care of her son for multiple years. And then to make matters worse, Johnny then proceeded to get involved with a younger woman named Judy Henderson. He again used authority as a cop to instill fear in her and to coerce her to going out with him, in which she did not know any better due to her young age. At the bars, when he continued to beat and dominate her, in which he was forcibly removed, he then kidnapped her against her will and took her back to his house, in which the actions in which he would have taken are not clear, but one can only assume that they are very negative. And then he started banging on the door, trying to break down the door to forcibly gather Betty, in which she reacted in ways that were justified, and she shot through the door, which led to the death of Johnny. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we instruct the jury? Or
Yes,
something?
quick instruction.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's your decision to determine whether or not Betty Sanford, knowingly or intentionally, killed Johnny Sanford beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt means a fair, actual, and logical doubt based upon reason and common sense. You may also consider whether or not the killing was justified. The battered woman syndrome is one method that the defense can use to prove self-defense. If you found that she was in fear of her life because of the infliction of prior abuse upon her, to the extent that she thought that it was necessary to kill Johnny Sanford on February 15th, then you may find the defendant not guilty. We'll leave you to your deliberations.
Yeah.
Has the jury elected a foreman? All right. In the matter of the state of Indiana versus Betty Sanford, how does the jury find?
We, the jury, find Betty Sanford not guilty.
That's right.
Man, it's all women on it.
Oh, so now you
That's what it is.
So now you trying to prosecute that because you're sexist.
That's crazy.
Thank y'all for y'all input.
All right.